Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. I have a question. How tall do you think Jesus was? I know. Listen, I know it's a strange question. I'll bring it all together in just a few, but I have a serious question. How tall do you think Jesus was? Now, on this episode, it's not even going to be a long episode. I'm not going to get into how he looked and the miracles that he did and all this other stuff. I just have the question. How tall do you think Jesus was? I came to this episode. It's funny how I came to this episode. Okay, at the time of this recording, a couple of days ago, it was July 24th, the morning of July 24th, 2024. I was in bed and I woke up at like 4:30 in the morning, and I don't get up until I get up at 5:30 and, get ready, go to the gym, work out, and then come back and start working. But I'm up an hour before it's time for me to go to get up. And it's one of those situations where you wake up and you can't go back to sleep. And so I was just like, let me grab my phone. So I grabbed my phone and the thought just came to my mind, like, how tall was Jesus? So I decided to go to the Google machine. Now, here's the thing. Before I tell you what I found, if you haven't looked it up already, I think most people would think or say, based on what they think or what they've seen, that Jesus is probably 6 feet, 6'1", 6'2", somewhere between 6 feet and 6'3", right? Based on the images that we've seen over our lifetime, Jesus probably looked like he was a tall guy. I don't know why Jesus wouldn't be 7 feet tall. It's possible. It's plausible. You would think so, right? Okay, that's what we think. What we know is, according to the Google machine, Jesus was 5'5". And that's important. Very important. But let me say that again. Jesus was 5'5". That's very important because I'm 5'7.5". Don't forget the half, right? So I'm a part of the 5 foot nation. So Jesus was also a part of the 5 foot nation. And I found that to be fascinating, that Jesus was a 5-footer. And so, you know me, while it's entertaining, it's not funny, but it's something like, when you find something, you want to tell your friends. So fast forward hour or so, I go to the gym, I'm on the bike, and I was like, let me call my man Clark. So I call Clark. And I'm pedaling, so I'm breathing heavy and stuff. He's at the gym too. He's working out before work. And so I'm like, Clark. He's like, what up? I say, quick question. He said, what's up? I said, how tall do you think Jesus was? And his response was, hey, man, why do you ask? And I said, just tell me what. He's like, I don't know, 6 feet. And I said, he wasn't 6 feet. He was 5'5". And he said, well, what made you come up with that question? And I explained to him, like, I woke up and I thought about it and I looked it up. And his response was, well, what would make you look that up? I said, hey, man, can you blame a guy for waking up and thinking about Jesus? And be clear, like, I'm a very spiritual person. I can't quote a bunch of Bible verses. I just can't. And I don't go to church every Sunday. I go, but I don't go every Sunday. But, I'm in tap with the Lord, And there's some of you who may be listening or watching. If you're watching on Facebook, thank you. Excuse me, not Facebook. Instagram, damn. On YouTube, thank you for watching. My bad. Here's the thing. I am very spiritual. And I believe in God. And I believe in Jesus. And I believe he was 5'5". And he's a part of the 5 foot nation. But Clark had me rolling because he was trying to figure out how I came up with this information, or why was it even on my mind at 4:30 in the morning to go to Google and look and see how tall Jesus was. So after I get off the phone with him, I call my man Mo. Mo doesn't answer. Mo calls me back probably about 2 hours later. I'm back at home. I've showered and, eating breakfast, and I'm ready. I'm working. And he was like, yo, what's up? And I said, hey, Mo, question. I said, I called Clark this morning. I'm going to call you. I'm going to ask you the same question. I said, how tall was Jesus? How tall do you think Jesus was? He said the same thing. He said 6'1". I said, no, he wasn't 6'1". I said, he's part of the 5 foot nation. Jesus was 5'5". Now, this is interesting because Mo is 5'7" flat. I'm 5'7.5". So I'm like half inch taller than Mo. And this is my boy. So he's like, where did you get this from? And so he proceeds to not believe me, but then he said, hey, let me call my wife and put her on 3-way. And I love his wife. All of us went to college together at South Carolina State University. And so he calls his wife. So he says, hey, ask her what you asked me. And so I asked her. And Mo's wife said the same thing. She thought he was 6 feet tall. It's like, no, he's not 6 feet tall. He's 5'5". He was 5'5". And so I just think that's dope. I think it's dope that he was, a member of the 5 foot nation. So that's what we know. Because now I have been able to tell you on this podcast how tall Jesus was. But in my mind, I have more questions now. Like, if he was 5'5", do you think Jesus could dunk? I mean, because he is, omnipotent. He's Jesus. He's JC. You know what I mean? Like, and trust me, y'all, this is not blasphemy. I'm having fun. I'm in a good mood. I want to share with y'all a joke. And, well, this is not a joke. I mean, he really was 5'5", but I want to share with you the humor that I had in telling the story. So, yeah, I mean, like, when you tell me he was 5'5", I immediately start thinking about his athleticism. Could he dunk? How fast was he? Was he fast? Did he, because you're short, you probably were fast. A lot of short people are fast. I was fast back in the day. But yeah, that's a good thing to know. If I mentioned the gym, how much could he lift? Not that he had to lift a lot of weights back then, because there were no weights, but I mean, we know he moved a stone upon his resurrection. We do know that, right? But yeah, I mean, you learn something new every day. I mean, and then that made me think a little bit deeper. Like, about the story of Jesus having a loaf of bread and, fish and feeding 10,000 people. Could he cook? That's something to make you think about, right? If he were out and about, could he cook? If he could feed that many people off a loaf of bread and some fish, yeah, he probably could. Probably could cook very well. But I'm not here to talk about how fast he was, how high he could jump, what his 40 time was. The main story is Jesus was 5'5", member of the 5 foot nation. So for all of you who are listening and watching, who are members of the 5 foot nation, tell a friend. And you know what's interesting? When you tell people who aren't members of the 5 foot nation, they get somewhat offended, because Clark is part of the 5 foot nation because he's like 5'11". He's not even 6 feet tall. He's taller than me, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, you learn something new every day. And I just told you something that you never knew. And if you dispute what I'm saying, you can go to the Google machine as well. You'll get the same answer that I got. That's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for checking out this fine podcast. The 12 Kyle podcast drops every Thursday, every Sunday at midnight. From time to time, I come up with random stuff and just drop it whenever, like this one. Follow me on social media at 12 Kyle podcast, on Facebook, Twitter X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. We have a TikTok page for the 12 Kyle podcast where we put up clips. You can find this podcast wherever you stream your podcast. If you are on YouTube, thank you for watching. Make sure that you subscribe, and then turn on the notifications and share it. The reason why I say turn on the notifications is because the YouTube links actually come out before the actual podcast does. And the great thing about the YouTube is that we not only give you visuals, but as well as audio as well. And if you want to support the podcast financially, you can do so as well. Hit us up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. And you can buy merch. Look in the description box. There is a link that says merch. Click that. You can buy 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, posters, you name it. We got it for the low, low price. Again, that's going to do it for me on this bonus episode, I guess. It's just something I wanted to share, man. Like I said, for those of you who subscribe, you'll see this. Some people won't see this, but it's cool. But I wanted to share information with y'all. Spread love is the Brooklyn way. That's going to do it for me. I am your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.